of Nigeria, President-elect Bola Tinubu has already begun his team building with Speaker of House of Representatives Gbajabiamila, said to have been penciled down as his chief of staff, also believed to be considered for some serious role in the coming administration, as former Commissioner for Finance Wale Edo and Kebbi State Governor Atiku Bagudu, among other familiar faces being currently identified for different roles. This is as a renowned playwright and popular Nobel laureate, Professor Wole Soyinka, has warned Tinubu against failing to restructure the country, saying it was the only way out of the current national ordeal. However, in readiness for his administration's takeover next month, this day gathered that Gbajabiamila has already begun to discharge the duties of the Chief of Staff to Tinubu, having unofficially resumed with him in France with a view to working out processes and plans, including calendarizing his activities. It's about a lot to talk about.
Well, given his experience as, a former governor of Lagos State for 2 terms and his experience in politics, I think Nigerians can be, confident that, when the president-elect assumes office, it's not going to take up to 6 months to form a cabinet. And if it is indeed, as reported, the case that he's already building his team, that is to be expected, because the challenges ahead are enormous. And the next president of Nigeria cannot afford to wait, because the people themselves are anxious about what the immediate future portends. The president of Nigeria has enormous, executive powers under Section 5 of the Constitution. And the Constitution giving him those powers also recognizes that he cannot, do everything alone. He needs to form a team. He needs to have a team. And this team, has to come from every part of Nigeria. And that team must be able to deliver. So if indeed, as reported, the president-elect is already putting the team together, well, that's perfectly in order. That's how, doesn't he wait till, the matter in court is determined. Well, the thing to realize is that there is a window of about 180 days for, election petitions. So if a man is going to be sworn in on May 29 and the transition process has started, it's to be expected that on his own part, he will begin to put a team together. Some of the names that have been mentioned, Mr. Wale Edo. Mr. Wale Edo has been twice, Commissioner for Finance in Lagos State, and he's also, a very senior person in the financial sector with a lot of, experience and track record. Governor Abubakar Bagudu has also had experience in governance. Femi Gbajabiamila, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, whose name has been mentioned as the likely Chief of Staff, has also had, very significant experience providing leadership in Parliament. And the position of the Chief of Staff is also very important, because the office of the Chief of Staff is the engine room of the presidency. So, as president, you need somebody in that office who can be trusted and who understands government processes. It's not an office you just go and bring somebody who has no experience in governance and then you rely on that person. It's the engine room, it's a clearing house. And, I believe a man like Honorable Gbajabiamila has the requisite experience. However, it's going to be a whole team. What we can insist upon is that the next president of Nigeria, the president-elect, should put together a team of the best and the brightest. Not Division 2, Division 3 people. And there are more than, enough intelligent, capable, competent, distinguished Nigerians, both at home and overseas. So, the president come together, work with them. Reconciliation. He talked about reconciliation. He talked about building a government that will carry everybody along. The first signal that will be sent out will be, the composition of that government. Of course, the Constitution prescribes, the basic about the cabinet, for example. The cabinet will have to reflect all the states of the federation. But more than that, there is so much patronage to be dispensed. But the emphasis should not be on patronage. The emphasis should not be on the payment of IOU, many of which every president, will acquire in the process of emerging as president. Emphasis should be on ability. not job for the boys. And that is one thing, that, critics, analysts will be looking forward to. Already, beyond putting a team together, I see that people are already setting an agenda for the president-elect. Well, one, he has his manifesto, 80-page manifesto, in which he talks about, restoring hope back to Nigeria. Yes, Nigerians
restoring hope that he helped to scatter,
killing
the person he brought into power.
Two, he has been told by no less a person than the Nobel laureate Professor Soyinka that he has to focus on the issue of restructuring, which has been on the table for a very long time.
Let's wait till
nobody has been able to get around to it. And Professor Soyinka is saying, look, there are many voices in the room now in the country. Those voices also have to be heard. Hearing those voices, listening to those voices, point with regard to restructuring, which means many things to many people, will have to be a review or, further amendment of the 1999 Constitution, which many analysts have said, look, this is a military imposed constitution, despite the various alterations that we have had to that constitution. So there's a lot of work to do. There's fuel subsidy to worry about. There is the status of the refineries to worry about. There is revenue to worry about. There's so much. But we'll see. The first signal will be the kind of team he comes up with. And, we just hope that he will hit the ground running and that team will come up immediately as he's done elsewhere. Nobody should again in this country take 6 months or 1 year, as was the case at one subnational level, for a governor to even put a team together.
Okay, so a lot of things has to be said. Politics has started real time. The politics will be about who will take what, when, and how. Will they take it in his administration, Bola Tinubu's administration? And people have started aligning. Amila has been mentioned. In fact, there's a talk that he has even started his role already as, unofficially as the chief of staff. He's with him out there in Paris, overseeing affairs as they go ahead and plan. Other people are jostling, so there are other people to also be mentioned in the thick of things. Mentioned Wale Edu, which we always anticipate with Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his antecedents in the finance sector. And a couple of other people are coming up there. Because when you look at it critically, he is planning for his administration. So people are also making the argument that all of this, why can't they wait? But the question I'll also ask people that say, why can't they wait, is that the nature abhors a vacuum. When swearing in happens, somebody must hit the ground running. All right? But you cannot in such a way that verdicts on election matters are given before swearing in happens. And I think for a lot of Nigerians out there, it is time to take a look at that waste report again and ensure that some parts that were not implemented were implemented, rather than the pick and choose thing we do. So, he's been able to set all of this out. And for this is a welcome development. Because we all know how this country pretty much grinded for the first 6 months under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, because we're looking for ministers that we finally were people that we had already known, and how long the process took. And when that process went on, it was an indication that we're not ready for the world as regards transaction and meeting people, because, ministers administer, and you need that administration across board for the ministries to be able to function effectively. Also, I would like to even see a day, and kudos to him that he started planning on this. I would also like to see a day whereas it is done, although some people argue that, that's a parliamentary system of government, that you have, for anybody trying to run, they already have a proposed list of a shadow cabinet on ground, so that it is plug and play and people can start from day one.